How much do you really know about the elusive Natasha Romanoff?
Before I worked for S.H.I.E.L.D., I made a name for myself.
When it was time to assemble the Avengers, who did S.H.I.E.L.D. call?
Let me put you on hold.
Former KGB assassin, agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Avenger, she fought through the Battle of New York, squared off against the Winter Soldier, defended the world against Ultron. She signed the Sokovia Accords, dealt with all that fallout, and beat back the forces of Thanos. When all seemed lost, she held the team together. But how well do you really know her? It's time for her story.
I've lived a lot of lives.
You've been waiting for this.
You don't know everything about me. I've lived a lot of lives. Before I was an Avenger. Before I got this family. I made mistakes choosing between what the world wants you to be and who you are. We have to go back to where it all started.
Where did you think I was all this time?
We have unfinished business.
My girls are the toughest girls in the world.
I'm sorry. We had our orders and we played our roles.
It wasn't real.
It was real to me. To me, you were everything.
Bring her home.
Put your seatbelts on. She's such a mom.
One thing's for sure. I'm done running from my past.
Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be my new Black Widow trailer video. They just dropped a new trailer for the movie for Superhero Day. Obviously, there's a couple more Easter eggs in here, and we learned about some really big connections to what happened during Falcon and Winter Soldier in the post-credit scenes. So I'll explain what's going on with that. If you're brand new to the channel, I'll be doing videos for all the Marvel Disney Plus and all the movie stuff this year, so be sure to subscribe to get those episodes. The Loki series is actually going to overlap with the Black Widow movie when they drop it in theaters and on Disney Plus at the same time. You will be able to watch it on Disney Plus starting in July. But the big thing that they're hyping up in this trailer is just all the flashbacks to her during the 90s when she was a kid growing up and then joining the Black Widow program and what happened during that timeline. The Black Widow movie takes place during a couple different time periods, like obviously talking about the flashbacks here to her as a little girl in America, pretending to be an American family while they were on this mission. But most of the plot will take place between Captain America Civil War before Avengers Infinity War. That's why she doesn't have the blonde hair that she has when she shows up at the beginning of Infinity War. Then because of some of the new information and the connections to Falcon and Winter Soldier plot, it sounds like some of the movie will take place in actual present day after the end of Avengers Endgame. So I'll actually explain that first, just because it's really cool. We just saw the Falcon and Winter Soldier episodes. Some new characters showed up during that, implied some big future for Thunderbolts and Dark Avengers stuff. So the big news is that the director of the Falcon and Winter Soldier episodes confirmed that Julia Louis-Dreyfus's Val character, Madam Hydra, was originally supposed to debut during the Black Widow movie. At least that was the place we were supposed to meet her first. So I think the idea was she was always going to show up on Falcon and Winter Soldier, and even though the Black Widow movie was delayed till after Falcon and Winter Soldier, they didn't really change her storyline that much. So theoretically, she's still doing the same thing that she was always going to be doing during the Black Widow film when she shows up during that. The way they talked about her on Falcon and Winter Soldier is they designed her to be a dark version of Nick Fury, so I am assuming that that same metaphor holds for what she's doing during the Black Widow film. What is Nick Fury most known for? Assembling the Avengers. What is the dark version of the Avengers? Literally the Dark Avengers, but also kind of the Thunderbolts too. There are a couple big characters during the Black Widow movie that would make amazing Thunderbolts or Dark Avengers characters, because you have Yelena Belova basically taking the mantle of Black Widow in the MCU from Natasha Black Widow. Even though the funny thing about that is that they're all Black Widows. Like the Red Room program, the Black Widow program, trains many Black Widows. It's just that when we talk about Natasha, we refer to her as the Black Widow. Scarlett Johansson did confirm last year during interviews that the movie was meant to be sort of a passing of the baton of the mantle of Black Widow. So at the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier, during those end credit scenes, we saw her basically turn John Walker, mint him as the new U.S. agent of the MCU, basically just the comic book term. We always thought that he was going to become U.S. agent, but he gets the full costume. Hopefully when he shows up again in a new project, we'll see him with the U.S. agent version of the shield too. He has a shield that looks just like Captain America's shield, it's just painted to look like U.S. agent's colors. The only difference is that it's not vibranium like Captain America's shield, but it's also way better than the Home Depot version of the homemade shield that he made during Episode 5. But the way the Val character talked, her dialogue, made it sound like they were going to be doing really shady stuff. She would be having them do really shady missions, and she referred to Zemo as if he were a friend, like our friend Zemo got the last laugh. So she's a character that wields great power and is associated with the US government, and she's putting together a darker team of anti-heroes. So the early theory is that she's doing similar things during the Black Widow movie. So regardless of where she shows up during that, in what part of the timeline, whether it's during the period between Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War, or if she shows up in a post-credit scene after the end of Avengers Endgame in present day, the theory is that if it's not going to be Thunderbolt Ross that's putting together Thunderbolts and Dark Avengers characters, she would be the actual person to physically go meet with people like Taskmaster and Yelena Belova to offer them a chance to pay off some of their sentences. The same way she went to John Walker after he basically got drummed out of the military. Like, look, you're a super soldier. This is the best thing that you could have done to yourself taking that serum. There are a lot of people that would find that very useful and attractive. I think the big difference, though, with her character and all this Thunderbolts Dark Avengers setup is that we know that Thunderbolt Ross is a character in the Black Widow movie because we've seen him in the trailer. Before we saw the Falcon and Winter Soldier episodes, there was a theory that Thunderbolt Ross was associated with a lot of the darker stuff that was happening in the series. That's still possible, even though he didn't actually have a cameo scene during the series. Kevin Feige did say that they re-engineered some of the connections between the Marvel Phase 4 projects because of the way they shuffled the order of some of the movies in the Disney Plus series. But he said for the most part, the overarching story that they had always planned is the same. I think the idea is that they just edited a couple of post-credit scenes here and there just so that everything makes sense and you're seeing things in the right order. But I guess for whatever reason, seeing Val show up during Falcon and Winter Soldier doesn't break the timeline when we see her potentially show up during the Black Widow film. It's just that when you would see her in the Black Widow film, it won't be as big of a surprise as if you were seeing her for the first time. Like, oh, we know exactly what she's here for. So pretty safe bet that they wind up not killing off the Taskmaster character. Just too big of a Marvel anti-hero character they could bring back. Anybody who's just a super badass, it's just in Marvel's best interest to find a way to explain how they survive the events of whatever movie they show up in. They kind of ran into that problem with the Killmonger character, even though, talking about Black Panther 2, Michael B. Jordan said that he would love to come back as that character. So obviously they'd have to have some huge twist to explain because supposedly he died at the end of the Black Panther film. But if you guys didn't know, Killmonger actually is a big character during the Marvel What If series, which is actually going to be releasing after the Loki series. So I'll talk more about the What If series later this summer when we start getting more trailers for that, because it's a little bit different from the normal Marvel Disney Plus series in the movies. It's more of an Elseworld series that sort of combines a lot of events of alternate universes, like what if events had played out differently, so you have vastly different versions of all the main MCU characters, but all the actors are coming back to do the voices for their characters. That's the reason why they're doing it after the Loki series, though, is because it relies heavily on the idea of the multiverse trope. But the other big reveal from this new trailer is Dreykov's character. So remember that scene from the first Avengers movie where Loki is sort of taunting Black Widow, calling her Dreykov's daughter, making references to all these terrible things, the red on her ledger, the people that she'd killed on her missions? When he's whispering in the ear of Taskmaster here, saying, bring her home, I actually think now that he's talking about the Yelena Belova Black Widow. Like at some point you have the events of Budapest. That's where Black Widow, Natasha, meets Hawkeye and then eventually defects and starts working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury. I think the idea is that when that happened, she effectively left her sister, so to speak, Yelena Belova Black Widow, behind. So she's actually going back to Budapest here in present day, or at least after the events of Civil War, to save her. So it's not so much Taskmaster going after Natasha Black Widow during all these scenes when he's chasing them down trying to kill them, or it seems like he's trying to kill them. He might just be trying to capture Yelena Belova Black Widow and bring her back into the program. For the most part, Natasha's storyline during the film is just learning that the Red Room is still very much active, the Black Widow program, and she wants to destroy it completely so that they can't induct and brainwash any other women. I think the idea with Dreykov's character, though, is that he's sort of like this Russian general KGB character who's orchestrating events from behind the scenes with the Red Room, and he's sort of this darker spin on a father figure for Natasha in Yelena Belova Black Widow. And you have David Harbour's character, who's sort of the good father figure to her that she remembers. He's playing Red Guardian, Alexei Shostakov. In the comics, he's kind of like the Russian version of Captain America who gets a version of the super soldier serum as well. That's how he's able to go toe-to-toe with Taskmaster here. So even though Taskmaster does have the ability to copy everyone else's moves, I'm also kind of wondering if they're going to give Taskmaster a version of the super soldier serum during the Black Widow film. But if you spotted any of the big Easter eggs in the trailer that I didn't talk about in the video, or you have any big questions about what's going on with the Black Widow film and how it's connected to the other Marvel Phase 4 films, just let me know in the comments. Like I said, it does seem like the Val character is the key to future Marvel Phase 4 storyline pushing that forward, even though the Black Widow film mostly takes place in the past. Everyone click here for my full Falcon and Winter Soldier Episode 6 finale video, and click here for that official Captain America 4 Marvel Movies announcement video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys tonight.